mother and father of Kaylee Goncalvez. They've been patiently waiting by. Their attorney, Shannon Gray, is also standing by as well. And thank you, all of you, for doing this and giving us this opportunity to touch base with you. I know this has got to have been one of the most difficult days of your life. Steve, let me begin with you. Your reaction after laying eyes on the person accused of doing this horrendous crime against your family.
I just looked at a guy that looks like a normal, everyday, kid. I mean, I didn't see anything there that caught my eye. I just was overtaken by the fact that I was in a courtroom going over a case that had to do with two people that I cared and loved about. It was a little bit unreal, but I was just overtaken by the moment.
Christy, I can imagine that is an understatement, being overtaken by something. You're in a club no one ever wants to belong to. There are so many others across this country who have been through what you've been through and say the same thing. It's unbelievable. They're numb. Does that sum up how you felt? Can you tell me what you thought?
I expected to feel just this immense amount of hate. And I'm sure that will come. I think that I'm a little bit in shock still. But looking at him, I just felt nothing. I mean, I just looked at him like, and I couldn't take my eyes off of him, his every moment. And I just could not believe that he has done what he has done. And I had a sick feeling for sure. It was very emotional. But on the other hand, I just was numb.
You expected him to be a bigger monster and a more intimidating.
I mean, I'm like, this is the guy?
Yeah.
This is the guy that murdered our daughter.
Are you going to be okay with continuing these court hearings? Are you going to show up at all of these court hearings? This is a lot. It's a lot to process. Before this, you were just parents of a couple of really great kids and living the American dream. And now there's this new normal in your life.
I think we'll lean on the prosecutor to tell us if the information is going to be to a level. Like I've already told them what I'm comfortable with hearing about the family has. I don't want to hear any of the gory details. So there'll be certain days that we're there and certain days that we check out,
We have Shannon that will keep us in tune with that as well. And we have other family members that will be going on some of those harder days. They feel that they can be there because we know it's a long road, but and it's a drive for us, but we'll do it every day if we have to. We just don't want to go into bad details.
There's there on the screen. There are pictures of Kaylee as you're talking, and I'm always struck by how much she looks like you. Absolutely stunning.
You.
Just such a beautiful girl. Indeed.
Yeah, we didn't look like that. Mama's girl.
She looks like you, Steve. She's got some of you too. I just wanted to get a sense from you about justice. What is it? What does it look like for you? I mean, you're just starting this process.
For me, it's going to look a lot like an end. I mean, justice doesn't have a room where you can read books and you can go to school and you can have, 3 meals and you can have your vegan diet. To me, that's not justice. Justice is when you leave the planet and the whole world is able to rejoice and be glad that you are not there. That's justice, and we will forgive him. We will. We're not going to have that heavy weight on us. We will forgive this individual, and but he has to pay for what he's done. And it's not just our daughter, it's all the victims he needs to pay justice to. And, that's all I can say about it.
Yeah.
Christy, it's always a shock to face the person who's alleged to have committed these horrendous acts and changed your lives forever. If you could say something to this person, what would you say?
I would just, I wouldn't want to give him too much. But I mean, I would tell him that, he destroyed our lives in an aspect. Does he realize what he has taken from us, from these 4 families? I mean, Ethan was a triplet. Maddie was an only child. Xana had siblings. Kaylee was one of 5. She was the middle child. She had 2 older siblings, 2 younger siblings. Just the immense loss. I mean, did he really think? I mean, he did really think about it, which makes it really hard. But why?
And I would add to that if you were looking for cruel girls that were bullies to you through your life when you were struggling, you picked the wrong girls. My girls have been through a lot, and they weren't the ones to pick on somebody that because they were overweight or they were struggling and people weren't. They were actually the ones that stick up for you. So yeah, you picked the wrong person if you were looking for vengeance on some people that were mean to you in your life, and you picked the wrong community. And we're gonna have to hold you accountable for that mistake.
Speaking of that accountability, has the prosecution or anybody from the prosecutor's office discussed the option of a death penalty? Because victims' families are consulted typically throughout the process, and this is an option on the table in the state of Idaho.
We've talked with them. We've had multiple meetings. I think they probably want to do it all the families together before they just approach one. That would make the most sense. But we've had meetings, but we have not crossed that actual
Question.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't even disclose just until recently that they were this close. They kind of said that, hey, give us some time. We think we have the right person. We're going to get this. But we couldn't go from that to death penalty or those type of details.
Do you both have a feeling as to how you would respond to that question once the prosecutors put it to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we know.
We're glad that we live in Idaho.
Definitely.
I'm assuming that
Definitely.
you are in favor of the death penalty for this
Absolutely.
defendant.
If our daughters could switch places with him, and I'm saying Maddie is my daughter, we'd do it in a heartbeat. If they could sit there and have 3 squares, a place to live, and we could call them, we could write them letters, they could watch TV, they could get educated.
I would love if Maddie and Kaylee were doing life in prison right now.
Yeah, so
At least we could talk to them.
that's not
They'd be breathing.
a punishment equivalent to being killed. That's God's role. And if you want to play God's role, then you're gonna have to go answer to him.
Do you know if the Mogen family feels the same way? I know you all are very close with the Mogens.
We have not talked to them about that. I was going to call her last night, and I did not. So I'm not sure.
Easy to talk about.
I'm not sure, but I have a feeling that that they will, but I can't say that for sure.
They're very forgiving.
I want to ask.
Family.
It's incredible to hear the words forgiveness out of your mouth, Steve. It floors me. It's extraordinarily magnanimous. You're a very strong family if you're able to be there today, especially on day one of this process, seeing him for the first time. I would love to ask your attorney, Shannon Gray, if I can. Shannon, was there anything in the affidavit you didn't already know about? Are there things that you know more about than the public knows now?
Well, I think there were a lot of things in the affidavit that we had no idea about. The DNA and the sheath. We had suspected some things. The identification, I think we had suspected. But there were a lot of things that, there was quite a bit of information in that affidavit. I was actually surprised there was so much information in the affidavit. But, it looks like it's a solid case. And, I kind of look at the case in 2 different ways. As a former prosecutor, I look at it as a prosecution case, and it looks like a solid case. And then I flip the hat and I say, okay, as a criminal defense attorney, how would I look at it? And I still have a hard time with the evidence that's been mentioned in the affidavit. And that's not the entire case. There'll be additional circumstantial evidence that'll be provided that will make more connections, hopefully, with the defendant in the case. And like they've always said, it's not just a arrest, it's a conviction. So we're hoping that that's the case.
Steve and Christy, when we covered the tragedy that befell Gabby Petito, her father, Joe Petito, said that there were some lessons that he learned very early in the process, and that was to pay particular attention to your other kids because they are going through an immeasurable trauma. Have you had a chance to navigate this with your other kids, with Kaylee's siblings, and have you charted a course forward?
Yes, we have our two are adults and they are grown, and we have talked to them, and they know, they can reach out to grief counseling and whatnot. And we are very open, and we talk a lot about it. We cry a lot about it, and that's not always enough. But our two younger children, right now, we are kind of letting them do their own grieving for a little while longer before we start some grief counseling with the church. They have some great people for us to reach out to, and we plan on reaching out to them. I've been talking to the pastor on a daily basis, and he has some really good, they go through grief counseling himself as the pastor, and he has a team like for teens and whatnot. And he feels that they are like the best, and I trust him. He's a great man, and he's got us through a lot here lately. And yeah, we feel that we just don't want to throw it on them, because right now they're like, no, we don't need that. But I don't see how they cannot not need that. They're young, and they're heartbroken, and they're confused.
Yeah, this is their friend and sister.
Yeah.
And
so,
unfortunately, Maddie as well, right?
Yes.
I would assume that Kaylee's siblings were very close with Maddie as well. This is a tremendous amount of burden to try to process for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maddie was very kind and had been a sister to them for so long that it was just, we took for granted that she was there and that she would always be there. So yeah, it hits everybody a little bit different, and you have certain memories that you tie to certain individuals. So it's my girls miss them both, and my son is torn. It's something we're gonna have to work together. We're not very good at this kind of stuff, but we're gonna have to figure it out.
Yeah, we're not, and it's not something you want to be good at. But just
I'd like to,
as a family.
I'd like to introduce you to Joe Petito. I think it might be, helpful just in terms of
advice from somebody who's been there for.
Yeah,
we're not.
Be pleased to do that. Shannon, we'll speak after the program, and I will connect all of you together. I do want to ask you, Steve, about some of the information in the affidavit. It seemed as though the police had their eyes on this suspect within 2 weeks of the crimes being committed, and yet for 4 more weeks, he was in Moscow, he was in Pullman, he was crossing the country. And I wanted to get your thoughts just on the notion that there were so many other people, classmates, neighbors, both in Washington and in Pennsylvania, who may have been at risk because they were so close to him before he was actually brought in cuffs. What were your thoughts about that?
I think we all kind of shared that as a community, that there was a risk of somebody being out there. And I took that very personal, because I had so much weight on top of me, and I knew all these other victims that were associated with my family were being hurt with just overall media and coverage. But these guys, there's no perfect way to do this. And these officers they just did an amazing job. And I was hard on them, and I'll come out and say that I owe them all the gratitude in the world, and I've always supported the police. But it's the school of thought that I come from. Like, everybody can do their best, and they need to come to the every day trying to be the best person that they can possibly be. So I won't back off of that, but these guys did an amazing job. They need more credit than they had. I mean, people think Idaho is so old fashioned and out back, but these guys, they hit a home run, man. That affidavit is impressive, and I'm glad to be wrong. I wanted to be wrong, and I told them to their face. I looked them in their eyes and said, prove me wrong, and all is forgiven. And here we are, and all is forgiven. And I'll say that on camera, and I'll tell everybody, I was concerned, but I was wrong. They were right. And I'm okay with that. I have my person now. We have our person of interest, our defendant, and we will go after him, and he better be ready.
I can't thank you enough for spending the time with us tonight, Steve and Christy, and Shannon as well, especially on a day like you've been through today. And I send you love and strength as you embark on this journey. And And I look forward to covering this as well and seeing justice actually coming through for all of you and your families.
Thank you. You've
Thank
been
you.
dedicated to this story. That's why we're here, because we appreciate hard work and
Yes.
effort, and you have been amazing. You
Yeah.
have been so strong on this case, and it doesn't go unnoticed.
And I believe the same with BRYAN. I think BRYAN is one of your coworkers, and he's been great as well.
Well, we'll continue. We're not letting go. We're going to make sure that we're on it as well with you. Again, as I said, on this journey. And as I said, Shannon, I'm going to connect with you after the program and hopefully
Thank you.
get you in touch with Joe Petito. It'll be, I think, helpful. Thank you both. Thank you, all three of you. I so appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Thank you.